Hello everyone, Vicki Achard here from Nature's Best Art. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be painting a beach scene. The beach scene is in South Haven, Michigan. My husband and I took a trip there for our anniversary, had a really good time, and we walked down about a block and there was the beach. And it was just such a pretty time, pretty time of the year, and just a wonderful time. The colors I'm going to be using today, I'm going to be using my bigger palette. I'm going to be trying to show you these colors. And they're for the sky, the ultramarine blue and the cerulean blue. And there's trees way in the background, the farthest trees, and they're going to be Viridian blue, phthalo blue, and sap green. And then for the bushes, I'm going to be making them mostly sap green and a little darker. So I'm going to be adding probably ultramarine blue to that. And then there's a dark area by the grass area. I'm going to be using burnt umber. And right here is my burnt umber and my raw sienna for the darker sand. And then let me see if I can show you this. Let's see, there's my sap green for the bush, for the grass. Then I'm going to be using some of this green gold for the lighter colors. And let me see how there you go. There's my Payne's gray. There's a few rocks in the water. And I'm going to be using some, putting a lot of water in there for the shadows in the water and also on the rocks. And then for the sand, I'm going to try this, it's called Flesh Tint and burnt umber together. If I don't like that, I'm going to probably do yellow ochre. I'm going to just see how that is. I'm going to try it. So those are all our colors, and so right now what I'm doing now is I'm going to be drawing my tracing my drawing on my Strathmore Watercolor paper, and this is transfer paper, and so let's get started. Okay, this is what I did here is I put a lot of notes because there was a lot of different colors all over, so let's get started. This is the water right here. I want to make that my line. I want to make it pretty straight, and I don't want to do this too dark, so we'll see how this turns out. And there was actually trees in the background here, so I'm just going to very lightly, let's see how light I'm getting it. I can press a little harder. It just showed me my tree line. Okay, I'm going to speed up the video, and we will, when we come back, it'll be all drawn for you. Okay, as you can see, I'm putting my shoreline in there now, putting the sand where it goes, and we had some dark areas there in the water. You can see up on the sand, if you notice my first line that I put on the sand, there was like a little bit of a hill there. Here's my grass area. I'm picking up my PBO drawing gum. It's a masking fluid, and I'm going to be using it where there were a few white spots to indicate the water. So you take the gunk out from the last time that you used it, and I always make sure I have my own water container for this masking fluid and my soap. And what the soap does is to prevent it from getting on your brush. I'm putting it on the water first, then putting the face soap on it. This is a very old brush that I had, and I actually wish that I had picked up a little thinner brush, but it got the water a little thick, but that's okay. It worked out pretty well. Now I'm working on my sky, getting it wet, and it was a very clear day. It was no clouds at all in the sky. And my tape was coming off a little bit. I had put it on the night before that I started painting this, and it was coming off a little bit, so I just pushed it back on. I didn't want to put any clouds in there. It was kind of a light, medium kind of looking like light sky. And then starting to draw the trees in the distance, and I wanted them to be varied but not real distinguishable because you really couldn't see particularly, you know, the branches or anything, but just wanted to paint it the way I saw it, different colors here and there. And that they actually looked quite like they had a little blue in it, so I did add the Phathlo blue with the sap green and the Viridian blue also. Made it a really pretty blue, I thought. And then those trees ended at a particular spot there. And I looked at it and I wanted a little bit more variation, and I wanted those a little taller right on the end there. So that's what I'm doing right there. And then the next set of trees, they were a little lighter. So I picked up my sap green. And then what I tried to do is I tried to, on the bottom there, there were bushes. And every once in a while I would pick up my brush for where I saw those bushes. I wanted to really look at my reference photo a lot and get it quite accurate, realistic. And thought that was going really well. Now at the end of the painting, I had thought, you know, when I looked at it, I did see a little bit of a few of those evergreen trees, so I could have maybe, you know, included that. What I did there was I went into with my sponge, and I am putting the bushes in. But the area was so small that it was hard to get that sponge in there. So I went in with my that's my number 4 brush there to distinguish those bushes a little bit more. And I wanted to dry that area, you know, to put the to make those lines a little you know, harder, because if I didn't dry it between my glazing, it would have just blended all in together. So as you can see, you know, every time I go back, they do become quite distinguishable there. That's what the result is. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm putting my shoreline in with a little burnt umber, and then going in there and putting my dark sand, you know, where the water meets the sand. The sand is always a little darker, so that's what I want. I wanted to make sure I got that in before I put any other colors in. And then that's burnt umber that I used. And now I'm putting some shadows with my Payne's gray, with a lot of water makes gray, and putting it where I thought that the white was, where the waves were coming in. And then there I saw some darker waves in the water, so I wanted to make sure I got those in. And now I'm testing that flesh tint and burnt umber for the sand in that area, and I really like it. So I decided to use that for the sand area instead of yellow ochre, which I've always used yellow ochre for sand. But this was just I think it was a very bright day. So so the sand was very bright, so I wanted to make it as light as I could. And that Flesh Tint is by Reeves. And now you see me putting the water in. Excuse me. I wanted to tip my paper because I wanted the water to run. I wanted it to look varied in some areas, and I thought if I tipped it and made it run, it would do that, and it did that. It was the right thing for me to do at that point. And I'm just going around the sand and on those darker areas there. You know, right by the sand, where the sand would be, to bring in the water a little bit there. Just getting a few spots out of that area there that I went in, the water got on my sand a little too much. Putting the darker areas in again. It was so fun to, you know, so beautiful area. Just really loved it. It was a little darker right there, so I wanted to get that in with my burnt umber. And this was a very grassy area right in front of the bushes there. And now I'm actually going in with sap green, and I'm coloring or painting that whole area there before I put in the grass blades. And now I'm just kind of grounding those bushes with some paint there, making sure they look grounded. I picked up my 3/8 inch fan brush. The bristles are separated, and it's so nice to work with. It covers a lot of area at once. Putting the sap green there. And I'm making sure I dry it between each time that I go into that grass area. And now I'm picking up my fan brush. It's called a Robert Simmons #2. And the bristles are completely, you know, together, but when it gets wet, it separates. So it makes it a real nice brush to work with. And that's so I have a red one that's separated, and one that's the bristles aren't separated. The blue one, it's not separated, but when you put it in water, it does separate. And so now I'm going in with my green gold with both brushes, because there was light and dark areas there, and I wanted to pick that up, make sure I got that. And there was some grasses growing in this, you know, in the sand area there, right by the grasses, the grass there. Like I say, there was a little bit of a hill there, so I wanted to make sure I got the look of that in my shadow there. And just picking up some of that Payne's gray with a lot of water and putting shadows here and there where I saw them on my reference photo. And there was a few little rocks there. So actually they were kind of big. So I went in with my Payne's gray and with my credit card scraper, put little marks on the rocks like marks have. And I wanted my water a little darker. I thought it would be better because the sky was a little lighter than the water. So I did that. Making sure I put my water by the sand there, making it look like it's going up by the sand. And I'm just fixing anywhere I think it needs fixing. Right there in the corner there, keep putting, yeah, that water in there, that blue. I think I use mostly ultramarine blue I think maybe I did put a little bit of cerulean blue in the front, you know, like in the front of my picture there, but the ultramarine, definitely the ultramarine blue in the background there. And now I'm getting my sand area wet with the water. I'm going to be adding that flesh tint and burnt umber mix. It's, like I say, very light sand. Putting in the darker shadows darker. And now I'm thinking that the sand doesn't really look that dark by the water. And so you'll see me going in and painting that the sand right by that shoreline again. Just putting in all my darks. It's very important to have contrast in your painting. So there I go, putting some more of that, I believe that was burnt umber. Maybe it's a mix of burnt umber, burnt and raw sienna. Could be that too. I think I used that. And I have like a dark line right in the middle there. I'm going to try to fix. That's bothering me. And there I go fixing it. So I worked a little bit took me a little bit of time to get that out and fixed. But I finally satisfied myself. Okay, and now I picked up my old toothbrush. I'm going to be using some burnt umber to be using that toothbrush to splatter some pebbles on the sand. As you can see, I put my mask on to cover the other areas. It's a really nice effect. I really enjoy doing that. And using a rubber cement eraser is a really nice eraser to use to get that masking fluid off. Now I'm going back and putting shadows under that, and then you'll see me put shadows in the water and around those areas where I put the white. I made them a little gray looking. They weren't completely white, but so, and then you'll see me drawing that. But I wanted to paint this because it was just such a nice area. You know, it's a happy time to think about. It's our first time staying in a bed and breakfast, and we really had a good time there. And it was the lighthouse in South Haven is just absolutely beautiful. And then they had this place called Maritime Museum. They had a sailboat there that people could take a ride in, and you know, we did that. It was just a beautiful day, and that was wonderful. It was just wonderful to meet other people on the boat, sailboat. And then they had a very interesting story about that sailboat. I won't tell you too much. If you go there, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was just, you know, the beach areas there where it's just wonderful to walk around and to see the people enjoying themselves out and about, sailing. Our favorite place is the Sleeping Bear Dunes area, but this place was very nice too. We have a lot of special places we go to in the great state of Michigan. I really enjoy our trips. Now you see me, what I'm doing is I'm really checking my reference and my reference photo, and trying to get all those shadows in, making it look realistic there. until I'm really thinking about how I want to do things. Okay, now I'm using that Pro White. It's an opaque watercolor, and I just really like this stuff. I put it on my toothbrush with a little water, and I'm splattering it because there was a little, splatters by the waves, when the water came up there. And then of course, it was such a small area. I wanted to make it look a little bit more splattered there. So I took my brush, my smallest brush, and went in and put a few more splatters just by dropping some paint in. And whenever I use that Pro White, I put water in a special container, because once you get that white in your palette, it's just so opaque, and I don't want it around my palette with the other colors, and I also don't want it in my water my painting water, my fresh clear water, and my kind of like my dirty water. I don't ever put that stuff in there. I use a special like a spray bottle for that white paint. So that's kind of a tip for you if you're going to be using that, because it makes the other paint opaque looking too if it combines. Okay, now I'm drying it, taking my tape off. And then I see that I got a little bit of the blue on there, just a little bit. I use my X-Acto knife to take it off. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and share it with a friend. So glad you joined me today, and I hope you're staying well. Until next time, happy creating.